Hello, my name is Wayne Alexander, and today we're going to be taking a look at workflows in CRM 2011. I'm going to be using the web version to show you this, but I can confirm it's exactly the same process in the Outlook version. Now, workflows has changed slightly in 2011 from CRM4 in terms of the way it's being categorized. So, workflow now sits under a header called processes. And what we're going to do today is we're going to create a workflow that automatically creates a task when a lead has been created, and this task will be assigned to the owner of the lead just to remind them to contact the lead after a specific time. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is navigate to the settings area of CRM, and I'm going to go ahead and select processes. Now, as I mentioned, workflows now sit under processes because it gets categorized with dialogues, and they both are classed as processes in 2011. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new, and the first thing the system asks for is a process name. Try and be as descriptive as possible, so I'm going to say task reminder to contact lead when the lead is created. Okay, the entity we're going to be working on is going to be a lead entity, and the category is going to be a workflow. Now, I could always start from a template, or I could start from a new blank process. Now, I'm going to start from a new blank process and click OK, and it opens up the workflow screen. Now, there's two types of workflows that you can create in 2011: an automatic workflow or a manual workflow. Now, an automatic workflow means that the system would automatically trigger the workflow to start when something happens. Now, you need to specify to the system what's going to happen to automatically trigger the workflow, but the system would automatically do it for you. A manual workflow is where the user would physically have to click on a button to run the workflow, so it's not done automatically. Workflows have to be triggered, whether it be automatic or whether it be someone pressing a button to tell the system to start. Now, this workflow we're going to create today is going to be both. So it's going to be automatic and manual. So even though there's two types of workflows that you could choose from, you can also have a workflow that's both automatic and manual. Now, in order to specify how the workflow is going to get triggered, here are the options for the automatic process. First of all, we have the scope. Now, the scope by default is set to user. We're going to go ahead and change that to organization. So in other words, we want this workflow to work for the entire organization. Next, because it's automatic, the system wants to know, how is this workflow going to be triggered? Well, I'm going to tell the system that when the record is created, I want the system to trigger this particular workflow. I could have had where the record status changes, where the record is assigned, where the field changes, record field change, or when the record is deleted. You can notice I can select more than one box. It's not written in stone. I don't have to say just when the record is created. I could say when the record is created, trigger this workflow, and if the record status changes from, I don't know, open to close, trigger this workflow as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when the record is created, I want the system to start this workflow. Just one thing I want to point out, if I was to say where the record field changes, you'll notice that the select button becomes available, and I could go ahead and select which field I want the system to trigger on once it's changed. But I'm going to leave it on when the record is created. So all we know is when the record's created, the system's going to do something. We haven't told the system what it's going to do yet. We're just telling it that this is how the workflow is going to start. I'm also going to tick this box here which says as on demand process, which means it's a manual workflow as well. So in other words, you can click a start button to run the workflow. Normally you wouldn't need to have an automatic and a manual. I'm only doing this for the training session just to show you how you can run the manual workflow. Okay, so next step, after we told the system that we want automatic and we told the system how it's going to get triggered when the lead is created, we need next is to say what the workflow is actually going to do. Now, I'm going to click on select this row and add a step, and click on the add a step drop down. These are the different options we have. we could tell the system that when a lead entity is created, we want the system to create a new record, update a record, assign the record a record, send an email, start a child workflow, or change the status of a record. Now, for this example, what I want to actually do is when the lead record is created, I want the system to look at what the rating is. And if the rating is hot, I want the system to create a task, to remind the task for 5 hours time. If the rating is warm, I want a reminder task for 10 hours, or if the rating is cold, I want to give a reminder task for 1 day, 24 hours. So, because we're saying if the field equals to this, then do something, what we're going to actually have to use is something here called the check condition. Now, if I was to select the check condition, you'll notice that all of a sudden an if statement appears and a description area. If I click on the if statement, I could actually tell the system if the lead rating equals to hot, just by double clicking and sending it to the other side. So now you'll see it says if the lead rating equals to hot, then do something. You'll notice there's a description area in there, and I always recommend filling in this description area. So I'm going to say check to see if lead rating is hot. Now I'm going to click select this role and add a step, and this time in my add a step I'm actually going to say create a record. And when I say create a record, I'm going to tell the system that I want the system to create a task. There you go. I'm just going to put in here create reminder task for 5 hours. So I've selected create a task. You'll notice there's an X next to the boxes. The reason why there's an X next to the box because I haven't selected the properties for my task. So when I do set properties, I'm going to actually say reminder to contact lead after 5 hours. The owner of this task is going to be the same owner of the lead, so I've selected lead. Whoever the lead owner is, this is what we call a data field, is going to be the same owner for the lead. And for the actual duration, which is the most important part, I'm going to say 5 hours after the lead has been created. So if I click add and click OK, you'll notice it says 5 hours after the lead has been created, or the created on date. That's what it's been set for. So if I was to save and close, you know when you create tasks 15 minutes from now, it will synchronize over to your Outlook, and 15 minutes before the task is due, it will pop up and remind. So there you see there, if condition, if rating is hot, then create this task. But we want to say if the rating is hot, create this task. Otherwise, if it's warm, then create another task. So what we do is we select the if statement, go to add a step, and select conditional branch. And when we do, you'll notice it says otherwise if, and we're going to do exactly the same process again. I'm going to say where the lead rating equals to warm, same thing as before, and this time I'm going to create my task to say send after 10 hours. So exactly the same title, but this time I'm going to change that to 10. The owner would be the owner of the lead, but this time the due date would actually be 10 hours after they're created on. And save and close. And finally, we'll do the same step again, but before I do, I'm just going to put my description in here. Create reminder task for 10 hours, and last but not least, we'll do exactly the same thing, highlighting otherwise if, doing another conditional branch, and this time I'm going to say if the lead rating equals to cold. Now the thing about these workflows, you can make them extremely easy, as we've just done here, or extremely complex. You'll notice if you made a mistake because an X appears next to the line, and if you haven't completed a certain section, then the X will not disappear. So if I was to say create a record now, and you'll notice the record I'm going to create is a task, the X button is there and it won't disappear simply because I haven't filled in the properties of that task. So once again, going to go ahead and put in there, and I'm going to select this time 24 hours. The owner is going to be the owner of the lead once again, but this time the due will not be hours, it will be 1 day after the created on. Click OK, and I'm going to go ahead and save and close, and you'll notice the X disappears. One final thing, when creating your workflow, you must stop the workflow once you've finished, once it's gone through the steps. So if I was to select the entire workflow, click on add step and just select stop workflow, and you can see stop workflow suddenly appears at the bottom. You can put in a task description here to say stop workflow once complete. If I go to add step again, just to clarify once again, you've got your one other thing that we didn't point out, which is the wait condition. You can tell the workflow to wait. So I could have technically said when the rating equals to hot, I could have said wait 5 hours, then create a task to appear straight away. So you can put a wait condition. You can tell a workflow to wait as well. Okay, so we've created our workflow. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And the final thing you must do whenever you're creating a workflow is to activate the workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and click activate and click OK. And activate simply means make the workflow available for everyone to use. Now, as I mentioned, this workflow is automatic. It's going to automatically run when the lead is created, but it's also a manual workflow too. The only reason why I made it a manual workflow, because I want to go into leads, I want to create a new lead and just show you how you can run the workflow if it's manual. So let me just type in here test lead manual / automatic workflow. I'm going to put in the last, I'm going to put in some details here. Mr. Alexa Corp. The company name would be Alexander and Son, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So all I've done there was created a lead. Now that would automatically get triggered anyway because the rating is set to warm, but if this was purely a manual workflow, you can click on run workflow and I can select the workflow and I can go ahead and click OK, and now that workflow would run as a manual workflow. Okay, so what I've just done there is showed you how to create a workflow in CRM 2011 for creating tasks task reminders when a lead entity has been created. Thank you.